All right, there we go. Shavua Tov, everyone. Pashas Mitzora. Interesting. You know, dealing with being a Mitzora, it's it's not the biggest pleasure in the world. This entire process, the back and forth. If you go to the Kohen, is to check you, and you go back, and you have to wait, and you have to come back, and he has to check you, and then when finally you found that you're clean, that you have to be shorn, basically, and all your hair, all your facial hair, everything, the whole thing. You have to bring to the mikdash, and you have to stand outside, and you can only can get into the bed, somebody to put your toes in, and everybody sees it. It's not a pleasant experience to go through, but possibly the most difficult experience of a Mitzvah, call it spiritual leprosy, whatever you want to call it. It's actually the loneliness. He's supposed to be shunned. He has to go out of the machana for days or weeks, and nobody can talk to him, not going to communicate to him. He has to let everyone know that he's defiled, he's tummy. This is unique. All the different consequences of all the affairs, all the sins, all this loneliness. And it's not the only thing which is unique about Mitzvah, which is the result of speaking Lashon Hara. That is that it's the only affair in which the Gemara says that three are being harmed for when somebody says Lashon Hara about somebody else. It's the speaker, is the one who listens to it, and the one who's being spoken about. Usually, the victim of any kind of transaction is either the person himself or the person that's being done to. But how come the three of them? The answer, interesting answer that I saw is the problem of Lashon Hara is not just the damage that is being done to the person who's spoken to. This, obvious. Somebody speaks Lashon Hara about somebody, as a result of that, people think badly, but whatever it is, the consequences might be. We don't need to say about the person who actually speaks Lashon Hara, how how badly things are, going for him. But the one who listens, what's it got to do with it? What does he have to do with anything? I mean, Ad Kedei Kach, it's such a big problem, that they said that David HaMelech, why did the kingdom of David was divided into two in Yehuda and Israel? Is because David HaMelech was Mekabel Lashon Hara from the slave of Mephibosheth, who is the son of Shaul HaMelech. Originally, Mephibosheth was the sole survivor of Shaul HaMelech. He was crippled. He was dropped by his nanny when he was a baby, and he grew up. He was eating by David HaMelech, by his household. I mean, he was eating at his table. He was actually the son of Yonasan. That's Yonasan is the best friend that David Melech has ever had. And when David Melech was chased by Absalom, his son, and everybody, when he came back, everybody greeted him, and Mephibosheth was not there. So his slave, Mephibosheth's slave, came and fibbed that Mephibosheth, wasn't bothered by the fact that David HaMelech was chased away from Yerushalayim, the whole disaster with Shalom, like he was happy about it, that finally the one who, quote unquote, usurped the kingdom from his father was, really got his, as it were, and so forth and so on. So David HaMelech was Makabel Bet Shonara, and he said to Mephibosheth's servant, slave, whatever, okay, so you're going to get all his property. When Mephibosheth came forth before David HaMelech, and he proved to him that it was Hashem, he was a cripple, he couldn't come to before David HaMelech. So David HaMelech says, okay, so he split the property of Mephibosheth half to his slave. Because of that, after Shlomo HaMelech, the kingdom was split. Half was given to Yehuda, half was given to Israel, to Yeroam ben Nevat. David HaMelech accepted Lashon Hara. Accepted. He's not the one who said it. It wasn't the one who was said by. The Malchus was torn into two. The answer is that this is so unique. This in Lashon Hara, from Mitzorah, the punishment of the Mitzorah is this loneliness. Besides the busha, besides everything else, the loneliness is because when a person doesn't speak Lashon Hara about someone, unless that someone becomes a nothing by you. You objectify that someone as someone that you're allowed to speak of. He's good, he's bad, he's nothing. Just an object that you can, use either to say something bad about him or to make fun of or whatever it is. It's objectifying somebody else. The thing about Lashon Hara is Lashon Hara makes life bitter. It creates a bitter atmosphere by the entire world. It becomes a society where Lashon Hara is rampant. The entire life in that society is bitter, horrible. That's why the main punishment of somebody who speaks Lashon Hara is tsaras and the loneliness that comes together with it. We find in quite a few places that the need of creating the atmosphere, creating a standard that makes life miserable. That's the horrible plague of Lashon Hara. You can see, I had some clients, which Israelis, good people, not from. And you can see that anybody who has any experience or none from life, it's that bitterness, that prevailing bitterness of life. You can be in anybody's mouth. Anybody can say whatever they want about you. You can say anything you want about anybody else. People are like, yay, we're free. We can do whatever we want. It is such a bitter life because that's the atmosphere. I mean, they mean something goes wrong, whose fault it is. How do you know whose fault it is? Okay, they bring somebody from the opposition and ask him a question. Do you think the government is doing everything that needs to be done about, let's say, the captives? What do you think the guys are going to say? I mean, duh. It's like a batting practice. You're grouping one in. You'd be specific of him to say, what do you expect him to say? Yeah, the government does everything. The whole thing is just predicated on bitter lashon hara. Horrendous. So Hashem should save us from this, B'at Hashem.
Rabbi, could you explain that one more time? I'm sorry, I don't know why that was hard for me to understand.
Well, what is exactly was hard for you to understand? Can you repeat that?
The example, could you give one more example?
Yeah. Um, when lashon hara is something that is being spoken or something that's being practiced lemaisa in a society, what it does is it poisons the air, it poisons the atmosphere. Whenever it is that where people are makpid not to speak lashon hara, being makpid to done everybody kafschos, the atmosphere is one of friendship and oneness and cooperation. And I gave an example of the Fry community where they have no such concept of lashon hara. What they call lashon hara is actually motzi shemra, and it has to be proven that you really meant to say it, and so on and so on. As a result, the whole atmosphere of life in the secular society is bitter because it's a lashon hara society, and as a result of that, everybody is lonely. Everybody is lonely. Everybody is laughing. You can see it, specifically when people are, Allah Aleinu, that when they get sick, nobody comes to visit them. Everybody stays away. And the reason people stay away is because people that are not well are breaking the fantasy, the spell, the hypnotic trance in which people live, that everything is okay, life is wonderful. We can just do anything and say anything. The minute that somebody is sick, it means it just proves to anybody everything is empty. Everything is useless. Everything that we hold high and dear and whatever it is, as it were, is nonsense. The what I'm talking about is that what lashon hara does, lashon hara makes somebody else's existence cheap, and it creates an atmosphere, a pervading atmosphere, in which it's okay to speak of somebody else, which means it's okay to objectify somebody else, that somebody else is a nothing, himself doesn't matter. And if you can say anything about him, go ahead. If you want to say anything, just go ahead. And it's something that goes back and forth. It's very difficult to explain more than that. But what I'm saying is that it's a whole society that it's predicated on saying whatever you want about anybody else. You take a look at the society from a side, and which is the example that I gave, and you see it's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. I mean, they ask they ask somebody whose interest it is to say something bad about somebody, and they call upon them to ask about that somebody. In a society, you can say anything, whatever you want about anyone. What do you expect? I actually heard, in passing, I actually heard that I was driving and I was on the radio. I heard on the radio that they said that they recorded a special interview with a person that belongs to the opposition in the Knesset. The first question that they asked him was, does he think that the government, who is opposed, does everything needs to be done as far as the captives are concerned? So I'm asking you, in a secular society where you can say anything you want against anyone, no matter what, where there's no Indian, there's no Indian of not saying Lashon about everybody. What do you think the guy's going to say? Obviously, he's going to say that they're not doing that, they're the most horrible, whatever it is, that they never did anything good. What I'm saying is, it's not just a fact that it's a joke. You, as a radio commentator, what are you asking this stupid question? You're going to ask somebody who's against the government, who is the government doing well? And what are you expecting to say? Yeah, well, some good, some bad. Are you nuts? What are you asking in that? But the point is that people accept it as a legitimate question, as a legitimate interview, because that's the atmosphere. You can say whatever you want about anybody else, and it's okay, because that's the way people are. What people don't realize is the resulting loneliness that everybody feels because of that. Because if you can say anything you want about anyone, only when that somebody else that you're talking about is a nothing by you. It doesn't matter. So you have a whole society where people don't matter to one another. Zilcho, nothing. I don't know if that made it any clearer, but this is about as far as I can get.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's talk about Sipurey Baal Shem Tov for tonight. Emunah and the Tzaddik, this particular story about the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid of Mizrich told the Hasidim, to his Hasidim. The Maggid said it was a regular Shabbos Baal Shem HaKodesh until it finished. Immediately after Ma'ariv, before Havdalah, a woman came to the room with the Baal Shem Tov, the Hasidim were davening. And she was hysterical. She said, Rabbi, you have to help me. I absolutely must have immediately money to marry off my daughter. I don't have a penny. I don't know what was the occasion. He must have it on the spot. I don't know, whatever it is. That was the story. Baal Shem Tov listened to her, and then he told his Hasidim to put their hands in their pockets and take out whatever money they find in there to give it for an important tzvek. The miracle was that they found the money that they found. They all put their hands in their pockets. They found money, and not only they found altogether exactly the amount of money this woman said that she needed. So the Maggid said to his Hasidim, "Now you tell me, what is the lesson to be learned from this particular story?" So one Chassid said, "Well, the story shows, the Baal Shem HaKodesh. It happened mamish minutes after Shabbos. Nobody had any money in his pocket, obviously. The Baal Shem Tov made a miracle in order to help this poor woman." So the Maggid said, listen, we have a lot of stories that enumerate, that extol the power of Baal Shem HaKodesh to make miracles. We don't need Dafka this story. But here, and I said another, so it was a doubleness. Not only the Baal Shem Tov made the money to miraculously appear in the pockets of all the people, but it was the exact sum that the woman required. The Maggid said again, there are many, many, instances in stories that portrays the incredible miracles, also double and triple, the Baal Shem Kodesh has performed. So the third said, it's obvious that Baal Shem Kodesh was able to perform great miracles. But the Baal Shem Kodesh could make it such a miracle that the money will appear in his own pocket. And therefore he could do the whole mitzvah by himself. But because of the Baal Shem HaKodesh's great love to his fellow Jew, he wanted to divide the mitzvah and to share it with his Hasidim. So he made it so that the money appeared in their pockets for everybody there. He says, I think that this is the message of the story. So the Maggid said, if it was up to me, I'll tell you what I think is the biggest message of this story. I think that this story is not dealing with Baal Shem HaKodesh at all. I believe this particular story is talking about the greatness of the Talmidei Baal Shem. Even though Shabbos just finished and none of them had any money on them, they put their hands in their pockets. They did what the Rebbe did with complete emunah, without any doubt whatsoever. So the money was there. What a story. What do you guys think? What do you think? No, let's hear you. Somebody come in. Have any ideas?
I think it's exactly an example of what you've been talking about in terms of Lashon Hora. People care about one another. People are mean something, and so they just sense that we're a unity. We're together, and yes, I'll be able to give because that's part of who I am and what we believe in, who we are. So I think it's a nice example.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. What do you think, Mishalev?
I'm not exactly sure. This seems like, I mean, very simply, the Hashgacha Pratis is around the Rebbe. The Rebbe gives us first. We connect with the Rebbe. We build our Emunah within obvious ways. With seeing Hashgacha Pratis so clearly.
So Lemaisa, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that it's you're making a point that is slightly different than what the Maggid is saying. It's close, but it's not exactly the same. The Maggid is saying, says, take a look at the emunah of the Hasidim. The minute the Rebbe says, put your hands in your pocket and take out the money, they put their hands in the pocket and they take out the money. From here you see the great emunah of the Hasidim. At least that's the way the story tells it. There's also another famous story about Reb Dovid Leikis, who was one of Talmidei Baal Shem, that he said himself that one time he knew he had no money in his pocket. Shem HaKodesh told him, David, put your hand in your pocket and get out a coin of whatever. And he says, even I knew that I had absolutely no money in my pocket, but I put my hand in my pocket and I took out the money because of my great emunah in the Rebbe. But Rabbi Aronson, you're making a very, very important nekuda here that is not evident in the story. It's brilliant. What you're saying is that the connection of this is what Rabbi Wise said and what you said together, it's the oneness of the Hasidim with the Rebbe, because the Hasidim are all one with their Rebbe, the Emunas Tzadikim in the Rebbe, because of their Emunah, and because of the Rebbe, they were able to find, the miracle was they were able to find the money in their pockets. In other words, their emuna alone, without the Rebbe, would not produce the money. The Rebbe alone, without their emuna, kivyochel, would not produce the money. But their emuna, enabled the koyach of the Rebbe to express itself with the money appearing in their pocket. And this is a very, very emesdika nekuda. It's wonderful. It's a really emesdika nekuda, because Rabbeinu said, one of the important lessons that Rabbeinu said to Reb Nosson, says, you cannot do anything without me. You cannot really get close to Kodesh Baruch Hu without me. You cannot do tshuva on anything truly without me. He says, but I cannot do anything without you. In other words, if you don't do whatever it is you need to do, I cannot do it either. I cannot do it for you. It is you doing what you're doing, and I am doing what I'm doing, and therefore it can be done. Rabbeinu says, you bring me mortar and bricks, and I build tremendous buildings with it. In other words, without the mortar and bricks, the buildings cannot be built. Without the tzaddik, you can have all the mortar and bricks that you want, but the building will not be built. What's necessary here is the tzaddik and the chasidim together. The fact that they're all coming together through the emunah of the chasidim and the Rebbe, the love of the Rebbe to the chasidim, that kind of atmosphere, the anti-lashon hara, the lashon tov. There's amongst the Hasidim, everybody can come together and be one thing. I think this is a wonderful joint effort here. We're able to learn about what works and what does not work, and in the interrelationship, this incredible interrelationship, unique interrelationship between the tzaddik and his people. Marvelous, great. Let's take a look at Sichos Haran this week, and here we go. It also, not surprisingly, has to do with what we've been saying so far. Likuta Maharan Sicha. This is this is Sichos Haran. That's Sicha 237. Chof Lamed Zayin. Rabbeinu says, a person says the person has to be very, very careful. Has to be very careful not to utter from his mouth a dibur of rishus, that of chas v'sholom, like even b'derech litzonos, just joking, like not to say chas v'sholom himself that he will be a rasha, chas v'sholom that he will never chas v'sholom. Even he doesn't mean it; it's just joking, and it isn't in his heart to do it at all whatsoever. Even so, this dibur, this speech, is very mazik, because saying that can force that person to do whatever he said, to do whatever it is that he uttered from his mouth. He said he did, even though he didn't say it, he didn't mean it at all. But he will falter in it, and this is exactly was the problem of Yehu. Yehu was a king of Israel that eradicated the house of Ochav. And he gathered. He was ehrlich, he was for Hashem. There was all. In Israel there was a whole, the politically correct atmosphere was full with idol worshiping of the Baal Shem Tov. And so Yehu said he gathered all he says bring all the priests of the Baal into one temple, and he said, I think it's Yerovam, I'm not sure, but anyhow, he said, Yerovam Achov has worshipped the idols a little. Yehu, who he talks about himself, Yavdenu Harba, he will serve him a lot. In other words, you haven't seen anything yet as far as, and it was all a trick. He wanted to get all the priests of the Avodah Zarah into one place so he can kill them all. He says, Yehu Avdenu Harbe. Even though in his heart he had absolutely no intentions whatsoever. It's a late sonus in order to trick them, as it says in the Mikra. Nevertheless, he folded afterwards until he actually served the Avodah Zarah, as Chazal said. That's why you have to be very, very careful. Kibris Krusaros Fasayim, there's a covenant that is made to the lips. That whatever it is that the people say, that ultimately that speech will force them to do it afterwards. So Hashem Yirachem. So over here you see already an expansion of everything that we spoke about, specifically about Mitzvah, about Lashon Hara. The power of speech is not just that the power of speech when you speak with somebody else, that you cheapen that somebody else by people's eyes, that it creates an atmosphere where everybody's cheap on one another. Nobody matters. Talk is cheap. Now we find out that the Dibur has another koyach. The koyach is if a person says something, even though he doesn't mean it, it's just kidding, it's just jesting. That speech has the koyach afterwards to bring the person to do whatever it is he said he's going to do. What do you guys think? Abraham, you have any thoughts?
I'm a little tired, but yeah, I think it just emphasizes the point that we have to be, like you say, we have to be very careful. Joking isn't a joke. It has consequences, and we sometimes it can be more devastating than something serious. You know, it's an important lesson to learn.
You know, Rabbeinu says in the Likutei Moharan Torah Lamed Ches that the way that leads to ultimate tshuva starts with the speech. Rabbeinu says over there that the reason why speech is so incredibly powerful is because speech is your particular piece of God in you. Man was to a speaking entity. Animals cannot speak. People can speak. So this says, Vayipach be'apo v'kodesh baruch Hu has blown into as it was to the nose of man, nishmas chaim. Vayila nefesh chaim. Kodesh baruch Hu has blown into man a spirit of life, and he became a speaking entity, ruach mamalo. The Zohar says, man denafach. The Tanya says it also, repeats it. Man denafach midilei nafach. Whoever it is that blows, he is blowing his own essence. Kodesh Baruch Hu has blown into man the spirit of life. That is the godly essence which is in man. That's a speech. And the reason why this is done is because men, human beings, are limited beings. Kodesh Baruch Hu is infinite. So they're antithesis of one another. There can be no connection between something that is limited and something which is unlimited, which is totally abstract. How can they connect? Where can they connect? In which way? So Kodesh Baruch Hu has put speech into man. And with the speech, a man can connect to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And the speech is a piece of Kodesh Baruch Hu in every person. Hashochen itam betoch tumasam. Kodesh Baruch Hu resides in them, in their defilements. And the Rebbe says that the Dibur is like a mother that follows her son, even when the child is going into filthy places. The Dibur goes with you wherever it is that you are. The Dibur is always with you, which means that makes it possible for you to reach back to Kodesh Baruch Hu no matter where you are, no matter how hard you're fallen, how deep you're fallen. You can always use the Dibur, which is the Chelek Kula Kamima, Kodesh Baruch Hu is with you, to use it to call out to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and He will come and save you. And this is the klipa. This causes the klipa, this tremendously strong klipa of Ketz Kol Basar. That's klipa is called. Ketz Kol Basar means the end of all flesh. It's a special Yetzirah to put down everybody. This one, forget about it. This one, I don't want to get into it. Yeah, to make mockery, to finish off everything. That's klipa shel kol basar. That klipa does not let the dibur, the speech, get out. It holds it. It holds the dibur hostage all the time. The only way that a person can get out is if he starts speaking dibur shel emes. And the Rebbe says in Torah Lamed Ches, he says as follows: no, that all the disasters and all the bad luck and all the decrees lolling and all the illnesses that come upon a person is being caused by the speech of that particular person. Ruach Sa'ara, Zohar says, what is Ruach Sa'ara? Stormwind. What is Ruach Sa'ara? Zohar says, the Maser Gufa de Barnash, that it discombobulates the body, the physical existence of a person. The Rebbe says all the malshinas that people speak about, all the shanaras, is oised varuach sa'ara oised varad. It's the speech of a person that creates and brings these things upon him. A person is actually determining his reality by the speech that comes out of his mouth. And when a person starts, subduing that Yetzirah, not saying Lashon Hara, being Shomer Lashon, the Zohar says, if you can say something good to somebody and you're not saying it, it's also a B'china of Lashon Hara. In other words, not also withholding a possible compliment from somebody who deserve it is also a B'china of Lashon Hara. Why'd you tell him? He matters. The koich of the dibur is the koich Eloki within you, and that koich Rabbeinu goes through a whole process of how this dibur comes up. The truth starts coming up, and it's a whole mahalach until it comes to a person has a dveikis in Kodesh Baruch Hu. That means that the person is actually blushing in front of the mitzvahs of Kodesh Baruch Hu. It all starts and ends with the dibur. What parshas? Mitzvah Tazriah, Kenan Hara. Okay, we are, Bezat Hashem, are entering, we are going towards the runway for Pesach, Hashem. Now it's time for the cleaning, the time for the shopping, the time for whatever it is that to get ready for takeoff, Bezat Hashem. Now is the time to speak, now is the time to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We all have Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Hashem is a time of miracles. B'Nisan, Nigolu, B'Nisan Asidim Ligol. B'Zat Hashem Kodesh Baruch Hu will retrieve us and will deliver us. B'Zat Hashem will have Geula Shlemo.
Amen.
B'Zat Hashem Mashiach will come. B'Zat Hashem soon in our days. Should have a wonderful week and Chag Kosher v'Sameach. B'Zat Hashem.
Rabbi?
Yes, sir.
Rabbi, could I share something with you that seems that I can't really make sense of it myself, but we're talking about speech and a part of Hashem is our ability to speak. I had a Shabbos meal today with a family, beautiful family. A little boy, maybe 5, 6, 7 years of age. When he was 6 months old, he got a vaccination, and for 2 years he became a vegetable, a zombie. And now he's able to move around and act, but he can't speak. He can't speak. He communicates by saying ooh, ah, ooh, ooh. That's all he can do. And the father understood almost all of those, but it just seems so like hashkatas pratis that we're talking about speech. And I spent a Shabbos meal with a little boy, a sweet little boy. But he's like Anne Frank. He's like he doesn't eat with a fork. He takes food with his hands. He can't speak. It was a very moving experience with him, and it just seems to somehow coincide with what you're talking about. And I can't make sense of it exactly right now, but somehow there seems to be some connection between this shear and this little boy.
Zat Hashem, the schos of the Diburim that we spoke here, Zat Hashem, first of all, this boy should have Refuah Shleima and Yeshua Shleima. Zat Hashem. This Shir Zat Hashem is dedicated also to the Refuah and the well-being of Carly and Selma, but Florence, Fega, and they should, full health with Zat Hashem. And Zat Hashem should be B'zat Hashem b'schus of all the diburim that we will not speak, with all lashon hara that we should withhold ourselves. B'zat Hashem that bring about hashgacha shleima, the tshuva shleima to Klal Yisrael b'chlal, and B'zat Hashem to Elimelech ben Rachel, and Fega bas Rachel, and Yehuda Menachem ben Rivka and Moshe, and Klal Yisrael do B'zat Hashem tshuva shleima. B'zat Hashem zocher to B'zat Hashem, as I said, Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu B'meira B'meinu Amen B'zat Hashem.
Amen, amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much for sharing it. Take good care. Have a great week. Kol Tov.